If you are somebody who eats your feelings, then the chances are high that you've been eating the feeling of fear for a mighty long time, because Lord knows us human beings do not enjoy facing and feeling our fear and then doing the work of doing the action anyway. And more often than not, especially, and I speak for myself, back in the day when this was really bad, if I even had a whisper of stress or worry or fear, my stomach would go into knots and I'd head straight for the kitchen to get something to eat to make me feel better. Welcome to the channel. My name's Helen Bennett. I am your coach and I help people pleasers, procrastinators, and perfectionists stop eating their feelings and start creating a really healthy relationship with their food and feel fucking fantastic in their bodies again. That sounds good for you. If that sounds like something you need and want, por favor, subscribe to the channel. I'd love that. And also, I'd love you to smash the like button and join me in the chat. I've done some lives before. I haven't been here for a while, but I'm actually taking my own advice. I'm feeling my fears of failure and judgment. And I'm leaning into that today by getting back onto YouTube, back live. And more than that, I actually told people that I was doing this time. So maybe, just maybe, if I'm really blessed, one or two of the people that I have told about this will join me in the chats and give me a bit of support. If you're watching this video later, or you jumping on, a few days from now, I'll be going live every Thursday, live at lunch, and I'm happy to answer your questions. If I see one of your questions coming up in the comments, you will get preference unless you really mean, in which case I will not be talking to you. I don't mind. Bring your troll comments. I'm feeling strong today. All right. So we're talking about feeling our fears and then doing it anyway. And it's a funny thing because I'm a big action person. I'm a goal-oriented to-do list kind of girl. But the one thing I tend to skip over is actually taking the time to feel the fear and not to just get straight into the action, to be with the fear and the resistance and the worry and the stress and the anxiety, and to allow it in so that I can hear it, feel it, listen to the story it's been telling me, and then build the courage that I need in my entire nervous system to take the action. And I want to teach you how to do that. Now, that's not something I can really teach you in a short live on a Thursday afternoon, but I can take you through that. And there is a step-by-step process that I use that is not only powerful for the work of feeling your fear and facing your fears and doing the actions that you've been procrastinating on, but it's incredibly powerful if you're somebody who struggles with overeating, compulsive eating, and you need some tools to figure out how to stop that too. So we're going to pair two and two together. Looks like I've got somebody watching today. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you. Although I am ever so slightly more nervous now, but hey, that's the work that we're doing. That's why we're here. So I want to serve you today. First, I'm just going to take anybody new to the channel through a 5-day challenge that I put together on Sunday in a fit of passion. And I created an entire web page and a bunch of videos and a beautiful workbook, which I think you're going to love. So let me just quickly show you, if I may, what I have put together. So the link is in the description below. If you're already part of the challenge, awesome. If you'd like to share this with somebody, here's a link so that they can sign up and get access to all the videos. Of course, they wouldn't be part necessarily of the community that I'm a part of, but please go ahead and share it anyway. And I'll make sure I can support you on the socials as best as I can. So basically, you just pop on in there, you click on this button, plug in your details, and you'll get access to the challenge. And essentially, here we go. Let's just have a look here. We've got an awesome workbook for you to download. Let me just quickly show you that one. So this is the workbook. Bada bing, bada boom. So we've got an introduction. You're going to brainstorm your fears. I talk you through how to work through them. And then right at the end, you're going to take one big takeaway. And hopefully you'll share that with me at the end of the challenge. I'll be running this challenge right through until the end of next week, which is about the 20th of Feb. So it's not too late if you're catching this video now. And I'm sure I'll do it again in the future. But if you're seeing this video now, sign up, get involved. I think you're going to love it. Right. So let's get back. Basically, once you've got your workbook downloaded, you'll see that you've got a bunch of videos. We're actually 4 days in. So you'll see I've done the first day, how the challenge works. Then we talk about the fear of judgment. The fear of judgment, what I think they are thinking. That will get us stuck and hold us back every day, especially if you're a people pleaser or perfectionist, and most likely if you're a procrastinator. And in that video on day 2, I go really deep into the fear of judgment and how to break through it if you find it's got you absolutely paralyzed. Next up on day 3, we talk about the fear of failure. It's another biggie. That's a big one for me. I'm wrestling with that right in this moment, and I'm doing the work to slow everything down, to hear the story, and to talk myself through it. And then, anyway, you can see here, fear of food and hunger. And that's a biggie if you're struggling with emotional eating. And then the last video that I'll be posting tomorrow is really the one where everything comes together as we talk about the fear of love and connection and the fear of loss. Now, you may not be somebody who feels like you have that fear. Maybe you're in a great relationship. I'd encourage you to dive into that work anyway, because it will give you some real insight into how most of our fears manifest in the first place. All right, so let's get back to today's conversation. Let's see how I do this. Right, there we go. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to just go through a couple of questions that I've been given for the challenge. And I think they're going to resonate with anybody who's watching, even if you haven't done the challenge. And if you have any questions, you can send them to me, send me a pigeon, and I'll answer them next Thursday. So let's get started. This one, oh, it's a goodie. I find myself using self-compassion as an excuse not to do the thing. How do I take action without being hard on myself? This question, because there is a fine line. You know, we often hear things like tough love or you have to be cruel to be kind. But in my experience, I have never seen anybody change their emotional eating behaviors around through being cruel to themselves. In fact, I've only ever seen it come from a place of growing and incremental self-care, self-respect, self-compassion, and over time, self-love. So what happens when self-compassion becomes a bit too soft and then it becomes a bit of an excuse when we say, oh, don't worry, Helen, I know you're not feeling that great. You know, let's just stay in this place of stuckness a little bit longer and maybe tomorrow. It can be very dangerous. So given that the work of this is to face our fears, feel our fears, and then do it anyway, what I'd encourage you to do is hear the story that's holding you back just that little bit longer. And it'll be different for everybody, and allow that story a voice. What is that little hesitation? What is the last little thing that's holding you back? And then the next step is to come in there with that warm voice, the encouragement, the belief that maybe you never received and that you most need to hear. Now, I can give you an example of what my advice to me would be in those moments when I feel myself delaying or stalling just one little bit, that little bit longer. And usually at that point, I'm still compassionate, but I start to get quite firm. I think of myself as a parent who's not cruel, but is supportive and believing and kind of helpful in getting somebody to take that next step. And that's when I can hear an adult voice in my head going, come on, Bennett, I know you're scared. I know this is hard. I know that you're petrified of what people might say or do, but we've worked through this already and you're going to be okay. Now let's do this. Let's take one step. What can I do? What can I do to help? I believe in you and you've got this. And at some point, that firmness, that pushing, it's not, oh, let's wait another day. It's now is the time. Now is the time to take action. And every now and again, doing something like this, where I've created accountability as part of the challenge, I've shared with the community the struggles I have with going on social media and putting my content out there. And that's when my courage paired with accountability, serving others, that's when people pleasing can be so useful, because I don't want to not show up for you. So we can use that, we can leverage it to help us through in those moments. But I've created a community of really kind and loving people around me. I didn't create them, they were there. And I know in my heart that the people who are watching this probably today have good intent and will be cheering me on and supporting me on this journey. I know there will come a time when that's not the case and there'll be somebody mean out there. It's happened to me before. And I am beginning to build the trust that I will face it. And that trust has only come through repeatedly doing small things, little things, courageous small steps, to the point at which I start to believe that whatever's out there for me, I'll be okay. And I always remind myself that if the worst comes to the worst, I will reach out and I will get the support and the help that I need to cope with whatever I'm struggling with. And I'd encourage that for you too, especially if it's a big thing you're dealing with. That actually leads us beautifully into the next question. So listen to this one. Hey, Helen, any advice on how to cope when I do it anyway and it doesn't work out? I found the courage to talk to my partner about what I was feeling, but he shouted at me and told me to stop being silly. The hard thing about doing the courageous thing, the hard thing about facing our fears, is it doesn't always work out. And as a coach, it's brutal. I imagine I don't have children, but I imagine as a parent, it would be the same when you've encouraged and supported and believed in your child, and then they take an action and it falls flat, especially on the first hurdle. Now, obviously, we're always hoping that they'll get positive reinforcement along the way, but sometimes it really doesn't happen. And one of the things I've learned to do as part of my toolkit is to do my best to stay unattached to the outcome that I'm hoping for. Of course, we're allowed to hope. We're allowed to dream. Absolutely. I want to. I encourage you to do it. Dream big. But the way that we get to our dreams oftentimes doesn't happen at all in the time frame or the way that we expect. And it can be an unbelievably hard pill to swallow. So for this person in particular, who has been so brave, the first thing I do is just say, you are amazing. You are so brave. I'm so proud of you. And I'm so sad to hear that your partner didn't embrace your vulnerability in the way that you would have liked, that we both would have liked, I'm sure, right? Especially if he shouted at you or she and told you to stop being silly. That is just really hard thing to hear, because it immediately, if that was me, I would want to retreat into that shell and think, never again. You see, I'm just and then I would name call. Now, the danger is doing that. I hope you can hold your head high and be so proud of the fact that you took the chance on speaking your truth, even if it wasn't well received. So while we do this work, we do our best to stay unattached to how a person responds. What I often say to my clients is, you put it out there, and I teach a way of doing this. I won't teach you now, but I'm happy to another day. You put your voice out there, and however they respond is their response. But you can be so proud that you were brave enough to show them your truth in a way that they've probably not seen before. As people pleasers, we tend to mask our inner reality in fear of being rejected, in fear of being shouted at, right? Who could blame this amazing freedom fighter for maybe not doing this in the past, if that was a reaction she might even be used to, or he? So what we want to do is actually let go of their response. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It doesn't mean you might not feel unbelievably disappointed or like bitterly sad, broken for a moment, and that's okay. Take the time that you need to label your feeling. I'm feeling disappointed. I'm feeling shamed. I'm feeling, and do the work like you do with fear around it. What do I need to hear right now? And in fact, this is really prevalent for me, because on the 1st of February, I have been in a group with about 100,000 people in it. It's a Facebook group for about 5 years now. And I finally found the courage to post into the group on the 1st of February. And of 100,000 members, do you know how many likes I got? 2. And one of them was my friend. I'm not even joking. And that evening, I was mortified. And I was doing all this work of saying, of licking my wounds and acknowledging my disappointment and my fear and my sadness. And then resolving to try again, but this time more intelligently. Now, in your case, lovely one, you, I would imagine, have done your best to be your truest self to your partner. And his or her response is their response. And it hurts. But here's the thing I want you to know is, when you put your voice out there, even if it's to 2 likes or even if it's to harsh criticism, your voice is being heard. And I say that because regardless of how somebody's responded, they've still heard your experience. And it's so important to know that, because oftentimes when you've spoken your truth, they'll go away, maybe in a huff, maybe in anger, maybe in whatever, and it'll simmer and it'll stir through their mind. And especially if you've said it a few times, they can't really for too much longer deny your experience, or they certainly can't pretend they don't know. And I want to share with you a story of a client that I'm working with who did something very similar. She had a couple of very uncomfortable conversations with her husband, and he came back and so I think, if I'm not mistaken, he rolled his eyes on certainly one of them and said she was being too sensitive, completely dismissing what she just shared with him. And as a coach, it was so brutal to be, witness her pain as she felt his dismissive responses. Not that I was there, but when she shared the story. Anyway, but we just continue to do the work with as much compassion and with an intention of repairing the relationship as best as we can. And she came onto the coaching call and she told me, after these conversations, and she told me, "You won't believe it, it's like a miracle. He came to me a few days later and he said he wanted to know and understand a bit more about what I'd mentioned." Hallelujah. I did the dance of freedom. I was ready to celebrate and pop the bubbly. I was so happy because despite his initial reaction twice, what she'd said was starting to simmer, and he became open to hearing her and trying to understand what she was going through, because he is, after all, somebody who wants her to be happy and he wants to be in a good marriage. And so that was such a relief. And I'm hoping that in this case, if you can hold your ground from a place of love and keep speaking your truth, I'm hoping that your partner will have a similar experience where their initial reaction might be a bit defensive or shut you down, but over time they will see you mean business and you're not trying to hurt them and you're just trying to be who you are. So I know this is really bold and brave work, and it doesn't always work out the way we'd like it to, but I'm really hopeful that if your partner is a good human being deep down and is loving and kind and wants a good relationship, then this will be the path that you begin to navigate to build something better. Now, that is my hope for you. And we all know it doesn't always work out. I think I've got 2 people watching. Yes. I've done quite a few lives, and you 2 lovelies are the first 2 that have ever been with me live at lunch. So I'm so thrilled. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to quickly pop them in the comments, and I will hang around for a little bit to answer them. But these are all the questions I have that I had lined up for today. I will be back next Thursday. And as I said, if you're joining us and you want to send a friend to do the challenge, the link is in the comments below. Or you can just send me a pigeon and I will send you the link directly. And they're welcome to join me through the rest of this week, into the weekend, and into the rest of next week. And I'll support you as best I can, whether it's in the community or on social media or here on YouTube. Answering any of your questions. We can face your challenges, your struggles together. And for those of you who sent me those questions, thank you. And please let me know how it goes. So if there's any further stumbling blocks, I can support you. All right. Well, I think we'll leave it there for today, everybody. 20 minutes in. And if you've been watching my stuff, you'll know that I can waffle on for a very long time, but I won't do that today. I want to really acknowledge everybody who has taken part of the challenge. The comments that I've been reading, the things that I've been hearing you doing, and bravely stepping into your fears and allowing yourself to feel them without trying to numb them or escape them or soothe them is really just incredible. And I really want to salute you. You are stepping into the arena, lovely one, and you deserve a bit of praise, even if it's a small step. You and I and everybody else in the challenge, we all know that oftentimes the small things are the important bits, and the small things lead to bigger things over time. So lots of love. Thanks for joining everybody in the live today. I'll see you next Thursday. All the best. Have a beautiful weekend further. And here is to your freedom.